we have Pauleanna Reid and Andrew Nguyen. Welcome to Ideas into Action.
Thank you so much for having us.
Now, right off the bat, we have a gift for you, Pauleanna.
Really?
And Andrew, we'll hook you up eventually. We'll get around to it. We're going to have a dedicated episode for you. But Pauleanna, we've got a gift for you. We've actually got two gifts for you. The first gift is a copy of Daymond John's Rise and Grind.
I actually really love him.
Isn't he
really
amazing?
Admire him. Yeah, he's cool.
What is it about him that makes him stand out from the other sharks? Because he has a disposition unlike the others, and I can't quite figure it out.
I can't put my name on I can't put a finger on it either, but there's something about his energy, and he's like very concise and straight to the point.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I have a lot of respect for. I watch a lot of his interviews, and he taught me some sales processes. I've learned a lot from him over the years.
It's amazing what he's been able to do, the empire he's built, and then how he funneled the profits from that empire into diversifying his portfolio. He's almost immune to anything that happens in the market right now. Like just take a look at his breakdown of the way he thinks and how he structures his day. And in this particular book, what he's done is he's turned the spotlight on others. He's turned the spotlight on people like Tyler, the Creator, like Joel Osteen, Gary Vee. And what he does is he breaks down their grind checklists.
Amazing.
So I'm going to give this book to you, Pauleanna.
This is like one of the best gifts I've received in a long time.
You know, we had to ask ourselves,
Thank
what
you.
do we give somebody who has everything? And the answer was give them the ability to
But
get
you
more.
know I love a good routine. You know I like you know me very well.
Well, let's talk about that because I think Daymond John messed up. He didn't interview you for this book, which he should have done.
You're so funny.
And I would have wanted to know, and the listeners want to know, what is your grind checklist? What is the thing that has to be true every single day when you wake up in terms of tactics and philosophies?
Wake up or go to bed or both.
Let's start with
'Cause
waking
I have-
up. Like, what's the wake up grind checklist? In terms of, like, not even wake up, the entire day. What are the things that need to be true in Pauleanna's day for you to
That are
seize the day?
consistent day to day. Absolutely. So before I go to bed, actually, something that's very consistent, every night I play a few games of chess.
Huh.
The way I look at chess is my philosophy for life and career. And so it actually helps me de-stress a lot by playing brain games. And so when I was younger, I was on the chess club, I was captain of the chess team. And so it's just really helped me think a few steps ahead and like be very focused on details.
Did not know this about you. What do you play on? Like what console,
there's so
in-person?
many different apps. But I love playing with people if I can, but there's a ton of different apps that also like teach you so I like to study the game a lot.
I did not know that about you. That's something that you don't often publicize.
I don't ever say anything about it, but it's just one of my like hidden talents.
This is amazing. I would love to play you at some point. I'm
would
really
love to play
rusty.
you.
I'm terrible. But I want to get back into the swing of things.
Any brain game I think is really good. I think people it's like a muscle, right? You have to teach yourself how to, because we were saying last night at our event, a lot of things in entrepreneurship aren't obvious, and you have to like think, you have to see opportunity where there is no opportunity, and like I apply that to the game too, right?
I love it. So before you fall asleep, you play a game of chess, you exercise
That's a staple
that
every
muscle.
day I've been doing for years.
And then what else happens in Pauleanna's day that's part of that grind checklist?
Yeah, absolutely. So I practice something called the 5 before 8, and this is something I talk about very often. So I try to cross 5 things off my to-do list before 8 a.m. Those 5 things will vary, but sometimes it's like, the email I've been neglecting for the last few weeks, or it could be, spending time, sitting in silence, or it could be like just, planning my day, like whatever that looks like for me. Because I like to get a head start on the world, and a lot of people flop out of bed 8, 9, 10, and I've already done like half my to-do list. So 5 before 8 is very important to me. And then I've just started working out very consistently. So I've been doing that about 4 to 5 times a week, which has been amazing because honestly, for a long time, I was okay with being fat and rich. I was
quotable right there.
I was very, I was okay with that. But like now I'm understanding that, when I look at my parents and my different members of my family and friends, like, health is you really got to get your health in check. And, right now we're young, we bounce back, but as we age, it's not going to be as easy. And I want to be here for a long time.
I love that. I'm here for a long time and a good time as well.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single wildly successful person that I know that's out of shape. Like when I close my eyes and I think about it, I'm like, do I know anybody that's overweight, that is slovenly, that is neglecting their health, that's also really rich and famous and successful? None come to mind.
Yeah, I just want to be healthy. I'm not trying to be skinny by any means.
Same.
I love my curves. Make a note.
Hey.
But yeah, like I just want to be healthy. I want to be able to walk up the stairs and not be tired. Like endurance. Like I said, I was an athlete for a long time, and so, but like life hits you, and then like you blink and things are just different, you know?
Absolutely. And I have similarly no aspirations to get a six-pack or to be as defined as Chris Hemsworth or something like that.
Right.
But there was a point in my life where I was just eating really badly and
Yeah.
stressing myself out and getting the less than the requisite amount of sleep necessary to fully function and be as creative and sharp between the ears as I would have liked. And what happened is I started to negatively spiral. I started to become more negative. I started to become a little more depressed, moody, and I had no control over my energy.
You and I deal with people. You have students. I have clients. Like I have mentees, and I don't want to be that way. They don't deserve that, right? So in order for us to think clearly, I think we owe it to ourselves to eat better and try at least walk once a day. You know, get moving. So you can sit at your desk for 12 hours and not even feel it if you're like really in a creative zone, right?
Exactly. It affects your posture and everything. It just has a negative cascade across your entire life. So we've got chess before sleeping. We've got 5 before 8 in the morning. By the way, what time do you wake up?
My body alarm clock will wake me up between 4 and 6 a.m. every day.
Oh, man, I love it.
Because I used to train. I was a competitive swimmer, and I used to train at 5 a.m. for many years before school. So, like, my body's just accustomed to waking up at that time.
Right on. Andrew, what time do you wake up? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, man.
By contrast.
No, it's very big contrast.
I'll be a night owl.
I am. So I'm almost exact opposite of Pauleanna. Just to be completely honest with you.
Damn.
I think that and for me, I preach more like do what works for you.
Yeah.
Right. So like I will gladly stay up till 5 o'clock in the morning and then go to sleep. I will boomerang or send out emails that are scheduled at 8, 9 a.m. so clients are happy, and I will sleep until 1, 2. However, I'm as I move along, I've even started changing, and so I'm a lot more interested in waking up early now because I feel like that's where this next season or where I'm heading towards. And so I'm very practical, and I'm all about finding, and I find very, very weird solutions for me to fix personal problems or situations. So do you want me to give you one?
Yeah, please.
So for example,
we love getting into the specific systems.
No, I can give you specifics. So for example, like two things I'll say about sleep and waking up. One thing is it's very, very hard for me to wake. I've learned a couple years ago that it's very, very hard for me to wake up. I asked myself why, right? I'm like, man, every time I open my eyes, I'm in the covers and I feel this feeling. And this feeling is just too good. And that's why I never wake up, right? It's just an amazing feeling. Yeah. And so I remember when I first started the business and I really wanted to fix that, I was like, you know what? I got to throw my bed out. Oh. My bed is causing me this feeling.
That quilted embrace.
So, correct. So I threw my bed out. And I just started sleeping on the couch or the floor. And I realized that, that helped. You know what I'm saying? That helped me wake up just a little bit. Give me a slight edge to wake me up to just feel like I'm not comfortable, to feel like I'm in hustle mode because I got to do what I got to do. And I know what vices or what things affect how I feel. So I'll just remove things out of the way. So I did that for a little bit. But nowadays, then I got comfortable. Then I started sleeping in bed again. Then I started waking up at 1 or 2 o'clock during the day. And now I'm trying to get back to waking up early. So what I did was, and this came from a recent trip to London. So this is my first time ever traveling overseas this year. I've been working very, very hard for the past 10 years. Yeah. And when I was in London, I realized it's like 5 hours ahead of East Coast time. And I was like, oh, I like this. I like the feeling of feeling it ahead. I'm waking up at 10, which is normal. Yeah. But over here, it's still like 5 a.m. Correct. Yeah. And so I like that feeling. And that was a catalyst to say, hey, when I came back, you know what? I'm going to keep my phone, which is currently 8 o'clock right now on London time, and so my body,
you're synced up.
I am synced so that's how I like. There's no, to me it's like not like a magic sauce, or like I'm not even that. I don't even think I'm that disciplined. I just think I have to trigger or I have to do things that kind of help me get to where I want to get. And so I have my phone on London time, and so I'll wake up at 10 o'clock, but then I naturally will get tired around 12:01 London time, which is really just 8, 9. So I'm just like reprogramming my brain on my mind. That's how I am. I'm very practical.
That's a really cool
find solutions for whatever I need to do.
I never thought about doing that. Just switching your clock, phasing your entire clock in whatever city you're in to a place that you want to be at.
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
No, there's not.
I mean, whether you're a morning person or a night owl. I mean, I've seen speakers and notable names say like everyone should be a morning person. You have to find your own flow. Like you can't tell somebody to be a morning person. You know?
I agree.
Exactly. And Raphael Wong, we had him on the podcast, I think 4 or 5 episodes again, echoed that sentiment. And he's working on this tool that I'd love for you guys to check out called My Techne, which is using AI and essentially artificial intelligence to customize a productivity system for you.
That's
specifically.
amazing.
With that being said, what are some other like philosophies or even just approaches to the day, Pauleanna or Andrew, that you take to help you govern your day and make decisions that are right for you? Because I think that some people just move through the day.
Right.
But
and I'm
you move
always
through the day intentionally.
I'm always very surprised when I come across people who do that. Like, I think that the best way to like maximize productivity is to get a handle on your time, right? Like, a lot of people say, like, many people say lack of time, right? But I don't think lack of time is the issue. I think the truth is that most people mismanage it. And I live, eat, sleep, breathe by my calendar. If it's not in my calendar, it just simply does not happen.
Yeah.
Even if it's a check-in with a friend, honestly, my friends now know, like, if I want to check in with Pauleanna, let me get something on the calendar and I'll hit her up. Because when my phone rings and it's not scheduled, I get so much anxiety because I'm like, this is not a, you know what I mean? And of course you have those one-offs, but I'm very, like, my calendar is very, very, very important to me. So that's a priority.
Is there a trade-off that comes from there? And I ask because if you're this structured and rigid, like, do you feel like you're missing out on moments of serendipity, friends that just want to drop by and call you and check in? Do you feel like you might be creating a bit of a force field around yourself?
It's something that I definitely need to work on, absolutely, because when it comes to, like, I'm not very spontaneous, right? I've kind of put myself into this box, but I think it's because again, like, that competitive nature, right? Like, my father's a military man. So, he always says, if you're on time, you're late. I think also, too, you got to look at the individual's life and where they come from, right? So I grew up in a household where, like, even when we go on vacations, we're not just hanging out on the beach. My father has an itinerary. Wow. Everything is scheduled. So, like, just naturally, like, that's how I live my life, right? So it's something that I want to work on because, yeah, absolutely. Don't get me wrong, there will be times when I just, like, let loose, but that's very rare.
And there's a method to everyone's, I don't want to say madness here, but there's a method to the empire building. And it comes with regulation. We found in this very short time that we've been doing the podcast, the pattern is time, energy, attention. It's the management and optimization of all three. Somebody who's done a really good job at that is somebody who has contributed to the second book that we're going to give you, Pauleanna. Second gift that we have for you.
Cool. Oh my God, what is it?
A children's book. Okay. But it's far from. It's a children's book. It was labeled as such only because it's beautifully animated. But if you read the content, the stories in here are absolutely incredible and inspiring.
Cool.
This is Run the Show Like CEO Oprah.
Wow.
With some of the coolest animations I've ever seen in here, or coolest illustrations rather. And this is a gift for you as well.
Thank you very much.
Of course. We just shower our guests with the best gifts.
Very cool.
So that bookmark over there is actually on the page that I would like you to read. So yes, if you could read that over there for the listeners, that'd be great.
This white page right here? Okay, I remember a specific moment. Watching my grandmother hang the clothes on the line. I know this story.
You know the story.
Okay. I love this story. Okay. Watching my grandmother hang the clothes on the line and her saying to me, you are going to have to learn to do this. And me being in that space of awareness and knowing that my life would not be the same as my grandmother's life. I know this because I've heard her say it many times.
Wow. So
many times.
And similarly, you've put your story out there for the world to see. I imagine the biggest fans who are listening to this podcast are going to hear these stories that you've already told in the past. Yeah. But I'd like you to zero in on one particular moment for us where, similar to Oprah, you looked at your life and said, this ain't it. This can't be it. This can't be the life that I want to live. Can you think about a particular moment in your life where that was true?
Yeah, I mean, okay, there was a conversation that I once had with my mother. She was trying to move up. She's been at her company for 40 years and was trying to move up at her age. And I had asked her, I'm like, why didn't you, I mean, you've been there for 40 years. Why didn't you try to move around earlier and sooner? And she's like, because I had kids. And that was a moment of like, oh my goodness, because I mean, I do have friends who their lives have stopped because they chose to have a family. And now that I'm 31 and I'm thinking about the next phase of my life, like I wonder, like, what does that look like for me? You know what I mean? And so I think a lot of women my age, we start thinking about, how are we going to balance our entrepreneurial spirit with our love for our children and having a family and taking care of a husband? So I think that's a big conversation. I'm talking to my doctor about possibly freezing my eggs. I'm talking to my doctor about, in vitro, like, what does that look like for me? Yeah. So like now at this stage of my life, I mean, we can get into earlier years, but that's honestly something that I'm thinking about.
Right. And so now as you project the next couple of years of Pauleanna's life, this is becoming a priority. You're starting to make space.
Oh my God. I think a lot of women are starting, because like the thing is we work, and then we blink and we're 45 and we forgot to date, or we forgot to, participate in, in a healthy relationship, and I don't want to lose myself because I have a family. If anything, it should enrich my experience.
And what is happening in your love life right now? Are you actively dating? Are you taking a break from it?
I'm definitely actively dating. I travel quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I'm Tindering wherever I am.
Telegraphing a little bit, use their teleport.
Exactly.
Tinder Plus.
Yeah, you know what? I really want to have like a good balance. I desire a good balance. So I think with any goal that you have in life, is love life included, there has to be goals around that, and you have to be intentional with that as well.
And so you want to feel love. You want to feel the love that comes from being in an exclusive, committed relationship and starting a family.
Absolutely. I think motherhood will be the best, one of the greatest accomplishments of my life. And I really look forward to just think about the type of children that our generation is going to have.
Yeah.
Like, it's so mind blowing, and I can't wait to see like how that unfolds and like what, if I hope that I can empower them to literally just be anything and everything they want to be. Because I really think that when we were younger, we had that same narrative. However, it came with conditions.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hope I can change that for my kids.
This is so interesting. And I pulled up a quote from your Instagram over here that you wrote. And you said, and this is not just on your Instagram, this is also on your website. And you wrote, "I'm a woman who has survived the trenches. God has saved me from abuse, high school bullying, a 6-year battle with depression, and 2 suicide attempts in 2008. My struggle is a huge part of my story. It is my belief that I am still here because I have a mission to fulfill. It is to serve and protect young adults who are struggling to find beauty in a world of chaos."
Right. The world of chaos, I equate to the Matrix. I say that all the time. Like, I always feel like I'm caught up in the Matrix. And I have those moments of, even though I have so many people around me, I still feel alone a lot of the time. And it's crippling.
What was an extended period of time in your life where you felt at your lowest?
Definitely college years. Because, I mean, those are your years where you're trying to figure out how your life's going to unfold and what you're going to do. And I don't really think school empowers you to like make the best choice possible.
Right.
I know I didn't do very well in school. So especially when you're a C and D student, they don't really pay much attention to you. You're not the highlight of their day. So I don't think that, and I'll take some responsibility as well. Like, maybe I should have raised my hand a lot more. But yeah, the college years were really bad.
I'm sorry to hear that. But I do think that your success today is commensurate with the pain and the struggle that you felt back in those days. Like, who you are today in this version of success that you've realized, is it safe to say that it wouldn't have been possible unless you felt what rock bottom was like?
That is very safe to say. Even like for years, I had a lot of resentment with my parents because they didn't allow me to exercise the creativity that I wanted or color outside the lines. But now looking back in hindsight, I'm like, you know what? A lot of the qualities and the tough love that they've shown me, I actually admire those qualities in my mentors.
Yeah.
Like, my mentors, like, they challenge me, they're very tough on me, and I actually work better in those environments. So in the moment, you don't always see the blessing, right?
Yeah.
Until you like grow through it.
What was the inciting force in Pauleanna's story? At what point did you say, I got to set down this adventure? I got to become the Pauleanna that I am today?
Definitely after my suicide attempt in college, for sure.
You said there were 2 of them, right?
Yeah. So So when I graduated high school, I went to my parents and I said, I want to be a writer. They said, hell no. They're like, at the time, it was like,
just
writers,
cut your wings, man.
or being a writer wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
Like, they just didn't know what my options were. So and plus I failed grade 11 and 12 English. So like, on paper, it just didn't make sense.
No way. Okay.
Right. So then I ended up, listening to mommy and daddy, and I took a program that they wanted for me. And I just wasn't happy. Like, they're caught up, they're at the height of their own careers, so they weren't really paying a lot of attention to me. And like, I was staying home for days at a time. I was in bed. I was crying. I was just very, very unhappy. And then I tried to commit suicide twice during those years. And once I recovered, I made the decision. My first decision was to drop out of school, which I did. And that was actually very empowering for me because I was like, I will figure it out. Nothing can be worse than what I just went through. So I will figure it out. When I recovered, I took that as a sign that there was a purpose for my life. Like, I didn't take that second chance for granted.
Right.
And so I was like, let me just figure it out.
Wow. And look at where you are today. You're building out a full-fledged empire. Now, we have we regurgitated what the empire is to the audience in the preamble of this and in the show notes, but we'd love to hear it from you directly. How do you describe the Pauleanna Reid empire? What are the different pieces that are comprising this thing that you've built that is helping you to build the life that you want?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that I played on my strengths, right? So like, my strengths, so even though traditional education, wasn't, didn't really work in my favor, like, I still believe that like, and Andrew believes the same thing. A lot of things can be developed. And so I worked really hard. You know, I was bullied and tormented in high school, and I used to spend a lot of time by myself. So I used to doodle, and I used to write, and I used to, you know, write in my journal and make stories. So like, I really feel like in those moments, like I felt really good about my work. And so just because a teacher in a classroom told me that I wasn't up to their standard doesn't mean I wasn't necessarily good at it. So I worked at that. And then in 2009, I started a blog. That's when the blogging era, I think, started. And my mentor at the time was like, if you want to write, then you need to show the world. It doesn't do you any good just writing in your bedroom, right?
Yeah.
So I started a blog, and it was like an online diary. And so I became a blogger, quote unquote. But I always like thought, like we all do, what's next? I want more. So then in 2010, 2011, my mentor, who I didn't even know had a pull at a very large publishing house. And so I became a journalist based off her cosign. And I was a journalist for many years. I mean, at this point, I've been a journalist for almost 10 years.
Wow.
And then at some point throughout that journey, I was like, what's next? So then I wrote a book, and then I wrote a second book. So I'm a 2-time author. So like my writing career has slowly evolved from a simple blog. And that's why I tell people, like, just start somewhere.
Right.
You may not even know what the future looks like, but if you just start somewhere, you know, where you're at isn't where you have to stay. So then the world of blogging is now saturated. So then a few years ago, I was like, okay, how am I going to pivot, you know? There's the saying that I kind of live by as well. You know, if you're not the first to market, be the best at market.
Yeah.
Right. And so I then, now that we have so many important conversations happening in our communities, industries, and the world at large, I'm like, okay, a lot of celebrities and a lot of notable names, they now, if they don't participate, it's going to damage their brand. So how can I be their secret content ninja? So then I positioned my agency as a ghostwriting firm. So that's
WritersBlok.
so that's what I do now. And so it's been so incredible. And like, I mean, I just spoke that into existence. I'm like, I'm going to be a celebrity ghostwriter. I don't know how, but the puzzle pieces kind of work their way, you know, figure themselves out. And then on the mentorship side, I have New Girl on the Block, right? So WritersBlok, New Girl on the Block. And that has been the greatest contribution I can make with my life, because mentors have really changed my life. So I've mentored in the last 3.5 years, 200 girls in 9 countries.
What?
And so that has just been a blessing. And then we have BYOB. I mean,
That's how you and Andrew met.
Right. Yeah. So me and Andrew met at a conference a few years ago, and then we didn't really know. It was a very organic growth. Like, we didn't really know how we were going to work together, but you know, we were very creative, and things organically, you know, were on the table, and he came up with this brilliant idea of an annual conference and retreat. He asked me if I want to be a part of it and help in any way. I said, hell yeah. And that's the thing, right? When I make decisions on what I want to work on, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no.
If it's not a hell yes, then it's a no. That's
It's
a
very
really good
like,
rule to
That's
live by.
good.
yeah.
That's good.
An
Like, it has to
enthusiastic,
light me up.
emphatic
Can
yes.
I add something
Please,
too?
buddy.
Not only, I think that what's awesome is not only is it a hell yes initially, but from the 2 years that we've known together, I can tell that it's a hell yes throughout kind of that entire 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Which is really awesome. Like, that to me kind of blows me away, how because keeping that same energy is hard, right?
Right.
Like, all the way through, because people get excited at the beginning, but to see Pauleanna just always like
because
always
we play
down
a
is
long
amazing.
game.
Totally.
We play a long game, right? Like, you won't always get the immediate ROI, but we know what we're building towards, and that's what fires me up and keeps me consistently engaged.
And that's almost a throwback to something that Oprah said a long time ago. She said there's no such thing as luck. Luck is basically opportunity meeting preparation. So young Pauleanna writing those journals, expressing her creativity, and
We're all
doing
seeds
so
that I was planting.
without an audience for many years. And then your mentor put you on, gave you the connect, gave you the alley-oop, and
The
over
thing
to
is,
you.
like, you don't know who's watching, what power they hold. You always have to do the work regardless of the likes, the comments, the shares. Like, there are sometimes I throw something on social media and maybe it doesn't get the traction, but I'm like, if one person sees that. And Gary Vee has said something similar. His PR team gets mad at him when he does podcasts that get like 12 views, and they're like, what the hell? And he's like, you don't know who those 12 views are, right?
Exactly.
Like, you just don't know. And so, yeah, like, I'm humble enough to still pursue opportunities where I won't see any return on my investment for the first few years, but that doesn't mean nothing's gonna happen.
Damn, you're gonna love this, and ties into your initial. When we first started talking, you said you play chess every night. So not Gary Kasparov, I think it was Gary Kasparov, one of the biggest chess players in the world. There was a movie made about him recently with Tobey Maguire.
There's a few movies, yeah.
I can't remember who he played in that, but it'll come back to me at some point in this conversation. But when he was going through a bit of a slump and he stopped playing chess, his best friend took him aside and said, "Hey, you have to keep on playing chess Because if you stop playing chess, eventually there will come a time where no one will ask you to play anymore. I.e., keep on doing the thing that you love, that you're good at, even in the moments where you feel like no one's going to watch, no one's going to pay attention.
Or no one even cares.
No one even cares, because that wave is going to come back. You have to believe that it's going to come back.
That belief in self is so, like, I can't even tell you how important that is. Like when people would, we all deal with negativity and criticism, right? But that fire and that belief in myself to know that, like, hey, I failed these classes, but I'm still going to be like a great writer. Like, I still walk around the house and tell my papa and tell my siblings, like, yo, like, I'm the shit, and I'm gonna continue this momentum, and they're just like, okay. But like, you really gotta talk yourself into it, like, hype yourself up,
Yes.
you know.
And that's
even when you don't really like feel it at your core, but like I have to look in the mirror every day and, like, you know, I'm my own competition. I gotta, like, you just have to.
And I love that you said that, because that's the one thing that I took from when you said those exact words in my class last semester. You said you got to talk yourself into it. Like, I'm a person, I'm not naturally confident. I have to artificially create confidence every single day.
I love that you said that.
And it's all synthetic, but I'm now starting. I'm telling you why that's important is because that philosophy of talk yourself into it is, I feel like my entire life I've been giving the opposite advice. I was always talking myself out of things, like, Hamza, you're not good enough, you're not perfect enough, efficient, whatever,
scared of
right?
Everything.
But now I'm doing the Pauleanna Reid trick, which is I'm talking myself into things. I'm like, hey, why am I not going to show up to this podcast wearing the blazer?
Right.
Why did I feel like putting on the hoodie and just kind of diminishing myself? I'm like, no, we got Pauleanna Reid coming in, man. Fucking pull out the blazer, right? Talk myself into it. Talk myself into being at my best. Become my own hype man.
Right. So I try to do one thing a day that scares me. I just because once you make that discomfort feel normal, when you have to, it could be like walking up to a stranger in the mall, or saying hello when everyone's on their phone in the elevator, saying hello and good morning. Like, these little things will help me when I have to then stand on a stage in front of 1,000 people.
Right.
Because, like, I know what that feeling feels like. It's a familiar feeling, and I know that, like, you know what I mean? You make it a daily habit, you'll be able to, like, climb that mountain when it happens.
I love it. This is so good. Andrew, from your time working with Pauleanna since 2017 is when you first connected, right? 2017?
Yes. Yep.
Since then, what are some of Pauleanna's isms or, like, Pauleanna's practices that you've taken into your own life? Because I know a ton of people around us right now, Gwen Elliott, Bailey Parnell, myself, and, you know, we've all benefited from you, but I want to hear from somebody who I haven't met yet.
Yeah.
What is that you've benefited from the proximity to Pauleanna?
Yeah, you know what's interesting? So I'm a huge analyzer. I'm a huge.
He is.
I
really
love.
is.
So, like, my whole thing is about I mean, my moniker, everything. Like, I'm a branding guy, right? So I love brand, but even a lot of people don't even understand what that really means, right? For me, it's a lot about psychology. A lot of it is subconscious. A lot of it is like, why do people feel the way they feel? Why do people do what they do? Like, all this good stuff. So it's a lot of it's unspoken. You know what I'm saying? So that's the world that I live in, I love, and so I watch, I pay attention, I listen to the market, I listen to people, I watch, and I think it's just all very interesting to me.
Yeah.
You know so even as I watch Pauleanna, I think that what have I picked up? I think that the beauty of being around her is that's who she is, and it works well for her, right? And I know that I'm a little different, and it works well for me. You know what I'm saying? I'm huge on even like context over content, right? So, like, the stuff that we're sharing today, you know what I'm saying, may or may not apply to certain people, but you just have to understand the context of it to understand if it's truly going to apply for you or not. And so it's funny, like, because I've been hearing the same thing for like 2 years now. You know what I'm saying?
You're immune to it now.
Here's the interesting to me, though. It's not the fact that it's not, you know, sure, some things may or may not interest me. I like to see how people react when she says what she says, right? That's more interesting than me. You know what I'm saying? And what people gravitate to or resonate to and might apply or listen, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I think I'm very self-aware on who I am, because I have a long history too that also includes a military background, that also includes being homeless, like all this good stuff, right? So I've gone through my ups and downs. I've went through a tremendous amounts of times of finding myself and just being very, very self-aware of who I am today. And so yeah, I feel very confident in who I am and what works for me, and what the main thing is, I always leave room to grow. I just know that sometimes it has certain things have to click, or it has comes at a certain time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I watch and I
I
peep
think he
things.
can trust that I'm consistent with my
Super.
with who I am
consistent.
and with my story.
So I think the biggest thing that I don't want, envy is not the word, but going there, right?
Sure,
I'm like,
you
oh
admire,
wow,
yeah,
I wish,
you want to
I
emulate
admire.
that, yeah.
Is definitely consistency, is beautiful, and discipline is beautiful. Like really, really beautiful. I'm the I'm not.
we all as marketing people in the room understand that, like, for a brand to work, it has to balance what the brand story is and what the story the story that they want to tell with what the audience wants.
Correct.
And I think that, Pauleanna, the one thing you can do better than anyone else in this room right now is give the audience what they want while still being true to yourself. I think the rest of us are at different stages of trying to figure out what that is. But you seem to be in the state of flow with your audience. You give them the things that they want.
Because they've grown up with me too over
They've been
like the
following
last
you,
10 years, right? So you kind of get you should know your audience after 10 years.
For sure. I got tired of scrolling through your Instagram. So yesterday we were putting together a game. So for every guest, we put together a special game. And I'll explain what the skull is in just a second.
Okay.
But we wanted to do a game with your Instagram. I'm like, let's find the point where Pauleanna's Instagram was different from what it is today.
I love that.
I kid you not.
I love it.
I was scrolling for 2 minutes and I could not find it. I was like, I give up. Like, I just kept on
But
going
that's
down.
a real thing for a lot of
You've
people,
been the
though.
same person.
Yeah,
You have
that's
not changed for years.
But the crazy thing for me is the fact that anybody could rebrand, which means they delete all the pictures or start over. Like,
Sure.
That to me, like, is so interesting.
Yeah.
Because you don't it's almost like you don't have to be consistent. Like, you can reinvent yourself anytime and just put yourself out there to a new audience and try to make this new facade or this new facade. Like, every 2 years, and I see it all the time.
All the time.
It's sad to me, because you're not being consistent with who you are. And to me, when I see that, I see, oh, you're still trying to find yourself, which is okay. Which is okay, but I like to work with people who know themselves a little bit more.
On that segue over there, that's a perfect segue to get into our game, the game portion of the podcast. So this skull over here, you've been wondering, like, what are Kwaku and Hamza doing over here? Are we going to get out of this podcast safely?
Yeah.
This is a total fake skull over here. This is the Halo skull, and what we do is we activate it only if you want. And what it does is it creates a custom game that we play for a few minutes.
Okay.
That'll put you in a bit of an awkward situation.
Okay.
But it's a funny situation. You're not going to be compromised in terms of
Yeah.
your brand, but it'll get you to think outside of your comfort zone.
Cool.
Would you
So I
like
can
to activate it?
Sure.
Okay,
Let's do it.
perfect. So this game is going to look a bit into the future. So right now you have a lucrative mentorship business, which I have no doubt in a couple of years, you're only going to have exclusively high-profile celebrity clients. So let's prepare for that. In here are 7 cards.
Cool.
And they are distillations of actual problems being faced by actual celebrities.
Okay.
And they're written in the form of letters. So this game is called, wait for it, Pauleanna Fix My Life.
Okay.
Hey, I love
I'm going to
this.
read these cards. They're fan letters, basically, to you.
Okay.
And you have 7 minutes to do 2 things. First of all, guess who they are, because I'm going to give you their initials and where they're from.
Oh, really? Jeez.
And then you have to give them some advice. Just mentor them through these difficult situations. These
Sure.
are people who are going through some difficult branding challenges
let's
right now.
try.
Ready to go? Awesome. So let me turn on my timer over here. And Andrew, you can definitely help out.
Yeah, I need your help.
Let's see if we can get all 7 of these. So,
Oh, we're doing all
without
of
further
them?
ado,
Shit.
as
Okay.
many as we can get done in 7 minutes. So without further ado, let's begin the Halo Skull Challenge. All right. I've got BA from New York. She says, like you, I try to keep it real on social media. However, recently I caught some heat for admitting to crimes I committed in my younger and more desperate days. I thought I was being 100% authentic on social media, and that was the key. What did I do wrong?
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know who BA is. I'll think about that after.
This is somebody who admitted to committing a crime on social media.
And was trying to be
Yeah.
transparent.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'd have to see I would want to see the post, but I will say that honesty is the best policy. You know what I mean? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would just say honestly, honesty is the best policy, and I don't think you did do anything wrong. Maybe it was the delivery, if I had to pinpoint something, but there is nothing wrong with speaking your truth. You are doing better than most people because you no longer have to wear that mask.
Got it.
Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think
Great advice.
as I listen to it, I think the key word that sticks out to me is discernment.
Discernment.
Yeah. And so I think you just have to know this world is no longer black and white, right? Everything is very, very there's very, very thin lines for everything. I think you just have to, I think for every action there is a reaction. I think for whatever you gain, you lose. Like this is the game that we're playing in this world. You know what I'm saying? And so you have full ability to do whatever you want, but you just have to have discernment to know that the world, this is not just you on an island by yourself. And if it was, then you can do whatever you want.
Right.
But we're living in a world where discernment is required. So that's how I see it.
Time and delivery.
Interesting. And I wonder if, we're looking at this now admission of committing a crime several years ago as like a faux pas, that you shouldn't do this in this age of social media. But I feel like that level of authenticity, we're going to look back at years from now and be like, you know what? She might have said it in a way that didn't benefit her career in any way, but it benefited her brand. It created more proximity to her audience, and they felt a level of intimacy with her as a result.
What do you
Very
think?
good.
What do you think the answer is?
I like Pauleanna's answer. I think that speak your truth. And I first heard that phrase from Charlemagne in the book that he wrote, Black Privilege. I was like, wow, okay, hold on. Like, Charlemagne, you are admitting to things that happened in your past that you're not proud of? Like, why am I holding back? So I've come out swinging. I'm like, hey, I've struggled with mental health challenges. Parents went through a really rough separation. I was bullied. I was a bully. Like, now I'm talking about it openly and honestly, and it's letting me move through the world feeling lighter and more authentic.
Yeah, I do. But I will piggyback on Andrew and say, like, it could have been delivery and it could have been timing. Because oftentimes, with so many things happening in the world, you can be like less, like, you may not, sensitivity, like, you just have to
be aware.
Be aware of like how it may have a ripple effect
or
affect other people. But
and I feel like in her case specifically, and we'll guess who she is at the end, but she has enough permission space right now where she can say something like that, and I don't think it's going to have a catastrophic
She's lucky.
Very lucky.
A lot of people don't.
This is very true. Let's go to the next card over here. The next card I've got is from CM from Ireland.
Okay.
He says,
I know who it is.
I've been catching a lot of heat from my peers recently. I decided to retire from the game at the peak of my career. I have money and I just want to spend time with my friends and family. Yet, I'm feeling guilty about quitting. Should I be feeling this way?
No, absolutely not. Like, you, especially in his career, like, it's so mentally, emotionally, physically draining. Like, you have done what you needed to do. You are leaving on top. Enjoy your family, because honestly, I feel like if this individual were to keep going, he may not have the health or the he may lose the chance to spend time with his family because it's such a dangerous sport.
I love that. And it kind of harkens back to what you said at the beginning of the podcast, where your focus was on finding a relationship and starting a family. And that's so interesting for myself to hear as well, because as I get older, I'm realizing that career success isn't everything.
No.
I mean, I'm not a marketer. I'm a guy who markets. I'm not a writer. I'm a guy who writes. Like, the important piece over there is that I'm just a guy, and I'm just trying to move through life doing the things that make me happy. And in his case, it sounds like he wants to spend time with his family and his friends. So more power to him, right?
Yeah.
I think that this is a very interesting question. I think that he wants to move time with the family because he thinks it's the right thing to do, and it probably is the right thing to do. But obviously, he has a feeling, and that feeling comes from someplace and somewhere too, right? I think that we all struggle with decisions and different paths of life. I think what's more important is if he's coming to this conclusion, to make a commitment to his commitment. That's the more important thing, right? Once you decide, because we all, like, there's always like one or two, like, should I do this or that? But the more important thing is to make a commitment so that you don't regret it, spending time with your family, thinking in the back of your mind that I should be working or I could do this.
Exactly.
That's the more dangerous thing to me. Not the fact that you think, is this the right decision? It's once you make a decision, go all in on it, because if you have any sense of regret, you're going to blame things and you're going to let that trauma hurt you and your family in the time that you really want to excel. That to me is the bigger thing.
That's so important. And I forgot, there's a small little sign off over here. He says, P.S. Congrats on all your recent successes. Love the Range Rover.
Are these like real questions?
No. But they might be in the future, right? They might
is awesome.
In the future.
Well, this is great.
I have another one. I think so.
It's a good questions, though.
I think you might have 2 for 2 over there. Let's go to number 3.
Cool.
This is JT from Ontario.
Okay.
JT said, my coworkers seem to be turning on me. There's a lot of rumors going around about my involvement in a controversial decision, and I just can't seem to catch a break. How do I regain control of the narrative around my leadership?
Ooh. You want to take this?
Well, can you say the question one more time?
Yeah, no problem. So my coworkers seem to be turning on me. There's a lot of rumors going around about my involvement in a controversial decision that I had to make as a leader.
Okay.
And I just can't seem to catch a break.
How
do I regain control of the narrative around my leadership?
You have to cut the vulnerability at the core. So wherever this rumor started, it could be because of her. It could be because of somebody else. It could be a perception, a wrong communication, whatever it is. You have to find it and address it at its core, and then fix it there. To me, that I'm huge on if somebody feels or thinks a certain way, even as I go on stage or do an event, like I will address the vulnerability up front, right? And whatever it is, like it was supposed to be a big event. 2 people here. I go on stage and I laugh. Hey guys, we only have 2 people here.
Yeah.
Like I address every single vulnerability so that it doesn't come correct, so that you take control of the narrative, so that it's not only in your favor, but it's clear. There's no like subconscious thinkings in the community, in the crowd, and your peers. There's a lot of subconscious because you or people around you are allowing that to flow. And so if you want to take control and responsibility of it, I think you should figure out. And you have to address. You have to go about it the right way. You have to come about it from a position of sincerity. You know what I'm saying? Like, so don't just like address it and be like, "Why the f does everybody hate me?" You know what I'm saying? Like, come at it the right way. You know what I'm saying? There's an approach to it, and address the vulnerability that is there, or the miscommunication, or whatever it is, because that's probably more than likely what it is.
Yeah.
If it's something that I did wrong, let me figure it out. Let me look at myself, fix it. If it's something that's miscommunication, let's figure that out, and let's be on the same page, and we're all transparent.
Damn, you know what? That's super interesting. The people who I feel like who have figured out who this person is, they're all listening to this being like, yeah, man, like why didn't this person just come out swinging and say, I fucked up, or I was involved in this?
Correct.
And I think they're doing the opposite right now, which is trying to create a narrative that is so far-fetched at the moment. So before we get into that, I want to let y'all guess this. Let's finish up the last ones that we have over here. This is AG from Ontario. AG said, I recently became a father. Much to my surprise, my baby's mother and I are estranged, to say the least. The responsibility of fatherhood is too daunting, especially given my demanding job. I want to be the father I needed when I was younger. What do I do? So it seems like had a child, doesn't want to be with his baby mama.
I know exactly who this is.
Pauleanna, fix my life.
I mean, okay, from what I've seen in the media, it seems like he's taking care of his responsibilities. And I think that, family dynamics are going to look different. And just because you don't have you are not your father, you know what I mean? Like, and you're going to navigate this path a lot differently. And just because you are not with your mother doesn't mean that the child's mother doesn't mean you're less of a man. You are finding effective ways to co-parent, and we have seen that in the media. And you are, we got all the love and respect and support for you.
Beautiful. This is just hitting home runs over here. Almost done. So we have LJ from Ohio. LJ says, love what you're doing, Pauleanna. Keep going in. For several years, I've been selected by my company to participate in a competition of top performers. This year, my new team dropped the ball, and I'm going to miss this competition. I'm sad and angry. What should I do with this energy?
You're fine. It's a competition. You're fine. It's not that serious. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, I guess this person wants, okay, because you've been in this competition before, it tells me that, like, you have an ego. Like, you want to be validated. You want people to pat you on the back and tell you you're a top performer. Yeah. It doesn't mean you're any less of a top performer just because you're not recognized. That's the thing we talked about earlier, like doing the work regardless of the likes and comments and shares. Same thing applies to like real life,
Beautiful.
Yeah, the subconscious part of this is the fact that he has expectations that weren't met. Yeah. And so he shouldn't. And now the deeper root the issue is, why does he have that expectations? Not only was he because he was a part last year, which is fair, but that also should mean that every time he does get an opportunity, he should know that it's a plus, not a not a true validation. It's a plus, not a validation. Correct. And so if he gets it, great. If he doesn't, he should be very, very aware that hey, maybe company politics didn't play this way, or maybe there are other people. Like, who knows? And honestly, who cares? You know what I'm saying? To be honest, if he truly feels like he's valued and good at what he is, he should feel that way regardless.
And if it's an L, hold the L and just get real about why it is that you ended up in the situation and work on fixing that, right? 2 more to go, and I turned off the timer. I'm so sorry. But I think we're under the 7-minute mark over here. This is BK from Houston. Big fan. My husband has cheated on me in the past. I've forgiven him and we've moved. Recently at a party, I saw someone flirt with him shamelessly, and it triggered some people who were close to the situation. Who should I be upset with here?
Always the husband, never the other girl. Right? Yeah. Like, that he's supposed to be your partner.
He should know better, right? Like parry this, and
Yeah,
you know that there's a history.
It's easy. It's so easy to blame the other person, like the third person, whoever that is. I've been in that situation, and like you obviously want to like cut a bitch, but like you have to. You really have to. You really have to. He's supposed to be your life partner. He's supposed to be someone who you can trust, and I mean, you gotta. It's either you guys are gonna be all in and you're gonna address it, or you're out. You know what I mean? Like make a decision. Yeah.
Very good. And we got the last one over here. This is DT from DC. I run one of the largest organizations on the planet, and about half the people love me and the other half hate me. Like you, Pauleanna, I try to be bold and fearless, but sometimes it comes across as arrogant. How do I change my brand to win over more of my haters while keeping my core intact?
Oh my
This is an
god.
interesting one.
Yeah.
This is a really good one. So good.
I mean, I don't think everyone is gonna like you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I really think that like, if you, cause like I have actually the same issue. Like even with like the people that I work with and my employees, like sometimes I come across as very like short, straight to the point, and it can come across as like, you know, aggressive, assertive, bitchy. But there's a level of expectation there. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that I'm disrespecting you. It's coming from a good place. So, I mean, I honestly don't think you need to change who you are. Not everyone's going to like you, but they should respect you. And I think that, and I don't like the word haters. I mean, if they're hating on you, then like they just don't matter anyway.
It says more about them than it does about you, right?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Do you want to take a crack at guessing who those 7 people were?
I think
Let's see
CM
how many
is,
rings you're going to win.
I think CM is the Connor guy.
Conor McGregor, boom,
Yeah.
1 out of 7.
AG is Aubrey.
Oh, shit, 2 out of 7.
Did you know that?
Well done.
I feel like, is this Cardi B's real name, the BA?
Bellicla Cesar, yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
3 out of 7. Pauleanna, keep going.
I don't know who these are. Wait, JT from Ottawa. Ottawa?
Yeah.
Like for real? Oh, Justin Trudeau.
Boom, 4 out of 7.
gosh.
Way to go.
That was Justin Timberlake.
Who's that? You're in DC. This is BK from Houston, Texas. Why do I feel like this is one of the no?
Walker, you can't help her out, man.
One of the boy band. Oh, okay. I thought it was
It's a she, and so
oh, okay.
She
Oh,
was
yeah, my
cheated on,
husband.
yeah.
Oh, this is easy. Donald Trump.
boom. 5 out of 7. We're almost there.
Yeah, this is US, so you can handle that. I don't know. BK from Houston.
BK's from Texas.
Like, is this someone who?
Kwaku's stressed. He's like, I
don't
know it.
I honestly.
Maybe Andrew can guess that one then.
Yeah.
Who is this?
BK from Texas. Husband cheated. This is public. It was a public
Yes.
scandal.
Very much in the spotlight.
Man, I don't know.
The listeners are some of the listeners who know the answer are just so frustrated. Oh.
LJ from Ohio.
Yes. From Akron specifically.
Is this an athlete?
No. Can I narrow down the?
Yeah.
Yes.
can
Give
you
me an
So
itch.
that would be a singer, and that would be a athlete. So Pauleanna's holding the athlete. Andrew, you're holding the singer.
I definitely don't know if it's an
This
athlete.
ain't Bobby Brown.
You're so silly.
BK.
No.
All right. Well, I'll give it away. So BK from Texas is Beyonce.
Oh.
Right,
How do you not know that?
And
You're fired.
LJ from Ohio is LeBron James.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, what was this? Love what you're doing. Oh wow! I've been selected by
The
my
national
company.
competition would be the playoffs.
Wow.
Oh, interesting.
But 5 out of 7 rings. You have
Interesting.
more rings than LeBron. So congratulations to both
Thank
of
you.
you.
That was
Well
cool.
done. Well done. Very proud of you.
That was cool. I like that.
This brings us to the second half of the podcast, and let's
Cool.
get right into it. This is the Performance Point segment where we get into specific routines and rituals and practices and tools that you use to be at the top of your game. And we'll start by talking about time, then move to energy, then attention.
Sure.
So when it comes to time, you've built up your life in a way that affords you to manage people and manage your schedule. Walk us through the process of how you went about building this system for Pauleanna, because now Pauleanna is the figurehead of this larger enterprise. And what's the next piece of that time puzzle? Like, who are you going to hire next, and what tasks and projects are you going to delegate?
Actually, so I recently hired a director of business development
For Pauleanna Reid specifically?
for WritersBlok.
For WritersBlok.
Because that is like WritersBlok. I'll be writing WritersBlok until I die, like until I'm 90. So yeah, and that was the best move I've made. I've had some issues with business partners in the past, but this young woman is just wonderful. We split the company 60-40,
Wow.
which is also a very big deal for me because
Yeah.
I typically I just wouldn't even do that. But she brought a proposal to the table that I could not refuse, and she's delivered above and beyond. So when you talk about next team member, like she was my most recent, and it's been a very good chess move for me.
How do you know when it's time to delegate something? Because I struggle with that. I never quite know when it's time to give something away.
Honestly, so what I learned from the CEO of LinkedIn is that my job as the founder and the leader is to grow the business, and my team's job is to maintain it. So I'm very good at like sales and negotiation and like landing contracts, and so like that's where I want to play for the most part, because someone has to land the business deals, right? Like who else is going to do it? Not my writers.
Right.
So that's how I kind of like, if it takes me away from being in the field and like doing what I need to do in order to grow our sales, then I most often delegate it.
How hands-on are you with WritersBlok? Like, do you
I'm
actually write yourself?
Yeah. So I want to I gave myself the freedom to pick and choose the projects I want to work on.
Gotcha.
Because I have to give myself space in case a specific client wants to pay a premium to work directly with me.
Right.
Right. So I can't be on every single project, but I do see every single project before it goes to the client.
What was the first position you ever hired for?
Pardon me?
The first position that you ever hired for?
When I first started, a publicist early on. And I will say this, I think it's very important for people to know, is that like, I promise you do not need to spend thousands upon thousands on a publicist. Like if you do the work, get in the field, make relationships, build relationships with gatekeepers, you can get all the publicity that you want. Because even I've had a few publicists and none of them have been able to land any of the publicity that I've been able to land for myself.
Yeah, you've done really well for yourself as far as publicity is concerned. Like you've been featured in the who's
everywhere.
who of publications.
Yeah, it's been pretty good, pretty consistent.
What's it been like working with Forbes?
I love working with Forbes. You know, it's giving me access, and that's everything's a chess move for me, right? Like Forbes is not going to be forever, and I think it's silly for anyone to think that like where you are may be forever, but like it's literally a gateway to helping me build the other things that I'm building, because with the Forbes name attached to me, I have access to anybody that I want, and then I can start conversations and go from there.
Very good. I love that. So this gives me a better sense of how it is that you structure your time. It's not just you that's looking after your schedule. You also have an assistant.
I have an assistant. I've had an assistant for 4 years.
Right.
Yeah, and
Game
a project.
changer, right?
I did have a project manager. She recently transitioned, but she was fantastic as well. Because like my short-term memory really sucks. So like I often CC my project manager and my assistant on every email so they can populate my calendar.
Gotcha.
It's very like I just need that. I need that reminder. And as things come up, they like tell me, hey, we need to do this. We need to think of this. You need people around you to remind you, because there's just so many things on the go. There's no way. And if I miss one deadline, it could have a ripple effect, and that could be really bad.
What's a definite no-no that you've told your people who can manage your calendar? What's something you said, please never do this when it comes to my calendar?
I just need things to be really... So so for my corporate career, I was an executive assistant. So that has given me so much insight, because I was doing the same thing that my assistant's doing for me for CEOs and presidents of huge companies.
Sure.
So just being very meticulous and detailed, and like everything. So we color code, like we put everything down to travel time, down to me taking naps.
Wow.
Like everything is in the calendar that I need. So as long as everything's clear and color coded, and I'm good.
And how does the color coding work? I know that there's a couple of productivity nerds listening to this right now who are really big on color coding. And shout out to Raph if you're listening to this. Let's listen in a little closely right now. How do the colors work in Pauleanna's calendar? What do the colors mean?
I mean, okay, so anything in red is like things that like I definitely need to pay attention to. So it could be like a client call.
Sure.
It could be a team meeting. It could be a deadline.
You got to be on for these things. Whatever.
Yeah,
they are.
exactly.
The red,
and then it kind of goes from there, right? We have yellow for anything travel related. So if I'm in the air on a plane, if I'm Ubering, like we have our own little system, but like it helps me because if I just see the color, then I know, like, you know what I mean? I don't have to, it just like puts a switch in my brain.
Exactly.
So I can pay more attention.
I love that. I love that we both have yellow as our travel color
as
well. I go based on like red being like high intensity speaking. This podcast right now would have been red if we were treating it like a business, but because we're treating it like an art, it's green. This means that I'm going to walk away from this with a lot more energy than I came in with.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And let's speak about energy. And right before we started this, Andrew and I were just looking at each other like, what? Pauleanna, you've never tried coffee? You've never had alcohol? Like, shout out to you for being this pure when it comes to what goes into your body. Fitness seems to have become a big part of your day, and you're regularly documenting your intense workouts. Sometimes I watch your stories and I get tired. I feel like I worked out. I was like, oh shit, man. Pauleanna, keep going in. Where does the motivation for this come from?
It doesn't. So that's why I have a trainer, because that's why I pay a trainer to help me stay on track. Because if it were for me, I wouldn't even go. But because someone holds me accountable, like I get off my ass and I go, to my sessions. It's awesome to have someone who's like cheering you on, your champion, someone who really wants to see the best in you, right by your side. So, and if I have to pay for that, then I do. And
on the days where you absolutely don't want to do it, so you wake up some mornings and you're like, fuck, today's not the day. Yeah. And you know what? I will definitely eat this financial cost. But how do you mentally come up with the motivation to get up and do it?
I think with anything, and like even when I get on stage and speak in front of 5 people or 500 people or 5,000, like I'm chasing the feeling I get when I walk off stage. If I apply that to a workout, like I don't want to work out, but I always feel so much better after, and like that's what I keep in mind.
You get that dopamine flush through your system.
Right.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's that can be applied to almost anything that you don't want to do. Just think
Last
about the
week,
outcome.
I cried myself to sleep one night just because I was frustrated with some client stuff, and the next morning I had to be in the gym, and like of course I didn't want to. I'd rather just like curl up in a ball, but I was like, you know what? Like I know this is going to definitely change my mood, and I was so much better after that.
Good for you. And are you feeling now the long-term benefits of working out? Like, are you starting to notice
Yeah,
that
I've been pretty
you don't
consistent
gas
for the
out
last
and stuff?
month.
Yeah.
I've been pretty consistent for the last month, and I'm feeling really good.
And what kind of workouts are you doing? So I see like high-intensity interval training that you're documenting.
Yeah.
But are there any other workouts that we aren't seeing? Like weights
So definitely. So I have a personal trainer, and then I have a boxing coach.
Ooh.
So the boxing coach is actually more for self-defense because I travel a lot by myself.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's a great like full-body workout as well.
Gotcha. And you were recently in Australia, right?
Yeah, me and Andrew were in Australia together. Yeah, we were on a volunteer trip. There's an organization there who received funding to fly about 200 thought leaders from across North America out to Australia to volunteer and to teach and mentor the youth over there. We went for about 7 days, 10 days.
After this, I'll ask you for some recommendations about Australia. I might be going there myself later this year.
Nice.
But let's bring it back to attention and close this round out. So you've written before, Pauleanna, you only get back what you put in. I'm not better than anyone. My focus is just different. So again, you only get back what you put in.
Yeah.
I'm not better than anyone. My focus is just different. And that's a really interesting phrase for a couple of reasons. And I get the spirit of it, but I'd love for you to elaborate on that a little bit more.
Because
what did you mean by that?
When I make these announcements and I screenshot my bank account or, you know what I mean? It's not for me to be like, it's not for me to shit on you. That's not what it is. It's just like, I always try to provide a story around why you're seeing the screen. Because again, context, right? If you see that I just earned $12,000 on a deal, I literally tell you how I got in the room with that individual. What, you know what I mean? Like, what were the sacrifices that I made? How did I negotiate? How did I level up? So that's what I mean. So when I show you, like, I always explain the focus, and for the average person may be like, oh, that's something I did not notice before. So it's really important that like people like you and I who are in these positions, like, it's not just about the flash, like definitely give backstory so people can learn and hopefully like change something in their strategy or routine themselves.
I love that. And I think this came up in the first episode of this podcast. We talked about what the formula for success is. And I think it's come down to 2 things that I've noticed. And both of you embody this, right? The first is hyper-competence. So being really fucking good at something. And the second piece is radical generosity. So you become really good at something, you succeed, and then you give it away. You start giving away.
And that's like, it's nothing for, like, we did an event last night. I mean, it cost us some money, but like it's not even about the money. Like we don't even care. Like I would have spent more money on it if we had more time to plan properly. It's about like how do we impact people? People's lives were changed. They lit up. Like we actually did. So there's a signature that I do at every event where I give away a book called The $100 Startup. And so the 3 of us, me, Rooks, and Andrew, we each put $100 in it. And like just the look on their faces, like people not even like, because we asked 3 people in the audience to pitch their business, and we were just, you know, it was just a routine exercise. We just want to hear about what you guys are working on, but like to plant that seed and sow that seed in their lives, it's like, it's a blessing. And we know that like the immediate ROI is not there, but like 10 years from now we may see that, you know what I mean? Like, so it's really important. It's really important to give, like jab, right hook, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Can I add to something?
Please,
yeah.
I think you said something that was so cool, that like something about generosity. What was the
radical generosity?
Yeah.
Like and just giving away things. And people are like, what? You're giving away that?
You know
That's
what
your secret sauce.
It's generosity. It's compassion. It's It's great. It's just a lot of things. And I've just, I don't want to say I've just, but this has become a big thing for me now. And the main reason is because I think that as a young millennial, a lot of times people don't do what's right for them. They do what they think that character of them should be doing, right? Whether it's I need to be a certain way, or I need to walk into a room a certain way, or I need to dress a certain way to impress somebody, or I need my social media to do this. This is how I attract people, right? Or grow my brain, or whatever it is. And a lot of it comes from confidence or cockiness, or even the whole authentic thing is funny because sometimes people do it in the name of the authenticity because that's what they're trying to do, but it might not even come off like that, right? They're doing it for the gram. They're doing it to show off more than doing it because that's who they are. And I think a lot of people get trapped in that at the beginning, and so people would do that. And then the thing is, I think that works to a certain point. Like, you kind of have to have this kind of like brand bravado. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's how you
project a little bit so that you can catch up to
correct,
it, right?
Correct. And I think that's possible up until maybe like you'll make like 6 figures doing it, right? Whatever. But I think what I realized is, and this kind of came from me just in the recent exposure and experience, like I've gotten a chance to meet, you know what I'm saying, Gary Vee, Mark Cuban, Damon John. Like, these are people I've seen, shook hands, talked to physically, and I've experienced a certain level of just gratitude, compassion, and just and generosity from them that I was like, if they're acting like that at the 10, 20, $100 million range, you know what I'm saying, maybe I need to switch up my mindset and how I move a little bit more, because maybe that might be the trick to getting up to that space.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's something that I've seen recently that has been a big catalyst and even trigger for myself, because that tells me, okay, cool. If I want to play that game, maybe that's how I should act, and not what everybody else thinks the facade or brand or fake it till you make it should be.
I just want people to gain a sense of hope. I think a lot of people behind closed doors, we all fight our own private battles, and I think that, you know, our event was a feel-good event. People felt good in the space. It was a safe space. But I know when people go home, they will struggle. And I want them to, you know, by planting that seed, we don't know if that just like changed someone's life or decision or whatever, right? So yeah, like continue to plant seeds in people's lives in different capacities, not always with money, but just being kind to people and just like letting them know that, hey, yo, I got you. Like, and that's what we did. Like, we left off with, let's continue the conversation.
Well, it's wild. I mean, I can go to any of your pictures right now on Instagram or any of your videos, and you are responding in the comments, giving away, like, to paraphrase Jay-Z, $1 million worth of advice for 99 cents for free, man. Like, you're in there saying things that I know for a fact are transforming people's lives. I've benefited from that. Like, you talked me into recently going into a negotiation with a speaking client and saying, I'm going to stop undercharging and I'm going to start charging what I think I need. And it worked. And I was like, man, shout out to Pauleanna. Like, thank you for that. Like, you gave me the permission to do that with something that it might have been Tuesday afternoon for you, and you're just documenting a casual thought for Pauleanna. So that's really cool that you do that. And before we go into this final bit of this, I would love to just take a couple of minutes to talk about money specifically, because you were open and honest about money in a way that I've seen no one do that. Like, you and Muhammad Asadullah are the only 2 people that I follow online that have publicly disclosed how much money they make. Such a weird thing.
I think it's very important because with Instagram, like, you could front like you're making a lot of money.
Never been
right?
easier.
Like,
yeah.
like, I'll screenshot my bank account any day of the week and show and be like, okay, well, obviously for motivational purposes only, but like also too, like, context and backstory. Like, I always tell the story of like when I was broke and I had a credit card with every single bank and I had $52,000 in debt. Like, you know what I mean? I make sure I balance it off with like, it wasn't always like cool, you know?
Yeah. I worked myself out of a difficult situation. I've become better with my money.
But I need people to also understand that entrepreneurship is an option for you. And so while people don't have to be a full-time entrepreneur, side hustling is also an option for you too if you want to climb your way out of debt. Because there, you know, statistics, you know, show that many Canadians are check to check. We were talking about this the other day. A lot of people don't have savings. So I want people to see it as an option. Like, you may not be an entrepreneur, but like you can like walk your neighbor's dog or mow lawns or some shit, like whatever, right? Like it's just too easy to make money these days for anyone to be like really broke.
You're reminding me of a conversation I had last night where we were talking about some of the structural challenges around asking for what you're worth. And like in this room right now, a very diverse room, like 4 people of color, one woman in the conversation over here. Why do you think it's been very difficult for us traditionally to ask for the money that we deserve?
Okay,
I mean,
you say we, but it's more so women. Women
for
have
sure,
a hard
yeah,
time.
and I don't want to lump them
Yeah.
together. It's definitely been
Women
much
have
more
it 'cause
difficult for
you
women.
guys will just ask for whatever the fuck you want. Like,
Not
women,
me, man. I'm the worst when it comes to contract negotiations, man.
But like,
I hear
mean,
you.
just
You're absolutely
naturally,
good
like,
point.
Men
Good
versus
clarification, yeah.
women have this idea, like it's a insecurity of ours. We're not as transparent. You know, you guys just in the corporate world, you guys, you know, make more than us as well. If we compare,
Yeah.
like we can be doing the same thing and you will make more. So the question is like how?
Well, I guess less about how, but like I think we understand how. Like the listeners probably understand the structural.
So the thing,
challenges
honestly,
over
like
here,
I think your relation. So sometimes it's generational too, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes, like, and even with when it comes to money mindset, like how you talk to yourself is very important. So like I was saying last night, like whether you're joking around or whether you're serious, your spirit doesn't know the difference. So saying things like "I am broke" or saying things like, you know what I mean, like you put yourself in that situation. So when I talk to my mentees, we talk about money mindset. We talk about money books. Like you really have to. I do money mantras every day. Like I'm very intentional. I do my goal setting practices in rich neighborhoods. Like if I have like an hour to kill, I'll park up in front of, there's this massive mansion. Actually,
Mississauga Road. You just go right there. Yeah.
I have a story about Drake. So
Please.
me and my friend at 3 a.m., we came from dinner. We actually parked up in the driveway of his new, it's like literally a whole building. Like
Are you stalking Pauleanna?
it's not. I mean, my friend lives in the neighbor. My friend lives close by and was like, "Hey, do you want to see?" And like, we just sat there and we just talked about our dreams and we just talked about like you know what I mean? Like
In the
I
shadow
love.
of
Like I
Drake's
just
mansion.
I put myself in situations and I'm like, how the hell? Like how? Like you know what I mean? I try to like work it in my mind and kind of strategize and like, okay, what do I need to? And the thing is, it's not even about the mansion, right? It's about like just getting to a point where I feel like, okay, like you can take care of your family and right? Like I don't need to be as rich as these people, but I think that's very important to, you know, if you have 5 broke friends, you're likely going to be the 6th. So all of my friends make more than me. Most of my friends make more than me, way more than me. Yeah. And like I just need that. I like that energy. I just need y'all to breathe on me. Just give me some of that heat. You know what I mean? Like
through osmosis, let me catch some of that.
Yeah, so
Ludacris had.
It's very important.
I know. I love that a lot. Ludacris had a quote that echoes a lot of what you just said right now. He said, "If you're making $1,000 a week and you want to make $2,000 a week, hang around with people who are making $2,000 a week because chances are they're thinking differently than you."
Exactly. All my friends who, you know, a lot of my friends, you know, whatever, the way they think, especially the men in my life, the way they think and how bold they are in their decision making around money is very fascinating.
Oh, I get that same benefit from following you online. I think that we've been orbiting each other for some time. Like we met through Bailey, and like now we're well connected online. We're having this conversation in person. I know already, just based on things you've said in this conversation alone, I'm going to go back and think differently and approach my world and challenges in my world with a confidence and a boldness that I've never had before.
But look at the influencer circle, right? Like you have influencers who are making like so much money just from like a picture or a blog post. I mean, I've worked with marketing agencies that have paid me for different posts and stuff. And I'm just, it's never been easier to make a living. And I want people to know that it is possible for you. It just takes a little bit, put pen to paper, takes a little bit of strategizing, talk to the right people, but you can increase the number that your corporate job has put on that contract is what they can afford. It does not mean that's your true value. You know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And when it comes to true value, like how do you deal with the nerves in that moment before you give a figure? So I'm sure you're pitching all the time.
I'm always scared, but
I don't believe
sometimes
that.
the thing is sometimes you got to put it on the table and let that shit marinate, and maybe things are going to be awkward a little bit, but you just leave it there and you make it firm. Like it's always easier to like work, like negotiate than having to like climb up the ladder. So I'll give a figure that I feel like is fair, but be like, you know, firm but polite. And you'd be surprised. People, if you are able to solve a problem, if you're able to add value, people will work with you. That's what I've found anyway.
Have you ever renegotiated a contract mid-service? So like halfway into doing something, you're like, hey man, I should have charged way more. Like,
maybe early in my career for sure. Like it's trial and error, right? No one ever like knows the formula until like you gain that experience working with people and having to ask for money, especially when you get into 5 and 6 figures, right?
Way to go. And for those listeners right now who are trying to break into this for the 5 and 6 figure mark right now, what advice would you give somebody for what to do once they hit 6 figures? Like once someone hits 6 figures, what should the mindsets
6 figures, so I'm trying to figure that shit out. Last year I brought in $147K outside of my 9 to 5.
Ooh, we need a soundboard in here, just like
That's awesome.
the flex bomb.
Yeah. So my 9 to 5, I made $65K, and then I brought in an additional 147.
Go Pauleanna.
And like I'm trying to figure out like what does the next phase look like. So like I can only talk where I'm at, you know.
Yeah. And that's real. That's real. Very good. Pauleanna, this has been fantastic. Let's close this out with the rapid fire round. So how this works is we ask you 10 questions and you answer with the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Ready to rock?
Yeah.
And if we have to elaborate, and Andrew, by all means, if you want to jump in and riff on this, let's do it.
Cool.
Pauleanna Reid, what's a game-changing book that you revisit personally from time to time?
That's a good question. I'm going to say The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Love it. What are 3 things that you value more than money?
Wow, that's such a good question. My family, my sanity and mental health, and the relationship that I have with my mentees.
What's the number one mistake people make when negotiating their salary?
I'm going to say... This is what I'm going to say. This is my mentor taught me this. So when asking for a raise or negotiating your salary, like they don't bring their receipts. Right? So you're going to say, if I ask you, like, I want a raise of $20,000, I need to show you a track record of what I've done to
contribute to $20,000 worth of savings or
right, or a bottom
revenue.
line,
Yeah,
or whatever the case may be. Like, I would say, like, at any job, always keep a track record of your wins and losses, like for your own good, but also too, if you have to justify an ask, a title change, whatever, you can lay it on the line, because a lot of times, like, your manager doesn't really see all the extra work you put in.
Yeah,
you want to make sure you document that.
Love that. Really, really good
They
advice.
can't argue with facts, right?
What about for like people who are working on things that are seemingly intangible, like for example, content creators? So you put together a blog post and then you want to justify why they should pay you more for that blog post, but you can look in the stats and be like, it only got 100 reads, but you know that there's exactly what you said. There could be one person that will turn into a client that will make that money back 100 times over. How do you...
So that's my space. So I'm in that space, right? So in the agency that we do now, this is very interesting because, again, it's all context, right? Your value is based off of, in my opinion, one way to look at it is your value is based off of what the market is willing to pay you. Now, the market is segmented in many different ways. When I first started the agency, I was like, oh, I can do a website, $200. Okay, cool, do that. Then I realized, oh, there's a group of buyers who are willing to pay for $2,000. I was like, oh, let me figure out how to do that. Then I figured out the people who are paying $20,000. Then, oh, let me figure out how to do that, right? So I think that at every... there are levels to this.
Right.
There are different buyers. Everybody is expects and wants different things, and some people can and it's the tiniest things, right? And so you just have to learn 2 things: how to communicate so that the other person at that level understands and appreciates and values that. And then I don't know what the other thing is.
No, I love that.
But
I think you're both doing it right now. Like in terms of building your personal brands, it's commensurate with what I imagine you're charging for your services. Because people are getting exactly what it is that they're seeing. They're able to like sample you now and almost just get a feel for what it's going to be like to work with you. This is a good reminder to go back and just really honestly think like more strategically about my own social media. Thank you. This has been really good. This is a bit of a curveball question for you, Pauleanna, but what's the best pickup line ever used on you?
Hey.
Dun, dun, dun. Honestly, I like guys who are very straightforward. So like someone who will pull up on me and be like, "We're going out on Tuesday."
Yo, ma.
Ooh, okay. Very specific.
Yeah, like
there's a call to action and it's a date. Put it in the calendar right away.
Yeah, I like a man with a plan. So like put me in a position where I got to move my shit.
Hey, I like that. If someone wanted to be Pauleanna Reid for a day, what are 3 instructions that you would give them?
I'd be like, why?
Just to be able to simulate like the life and the headspace needed to be great.
Actually, I have some mentees who are going to job shadow me when I'm in your class next week.
Okay, so what are 3 pieces of advice that you would give them? Or 3 instructions.
Get a fucking pen and paper and take notes. Like I've had people who have asked to sit with me for coffee, or they want to pop by my office. Like, how are you taking mental notes? Like, you know what I mean? How are you going to remember the things today? So just be very observant, right? A lot of stuff, like, I don't need to actually tell you. Just like watch the way I move. Ask a lot of questions, great questions. I do think there are such things as dumb questions. Ask great questions. If you're like I tell my assistant this all the time, like, you're my right hand, like, you're the closest, like, you should be able to run your own empire one day.
Yeah.
Like, after like spending time with me.
Steal these blueprints, essentially. I like that. So write, be observant, and ask good questions. Yeah. Beautiful. What is Pauleanna Reid's walkout song?
Oh my gosh.
That's so
right
funny.
now, Money by Cardi B.
Yes.
That's so
Yes.
funny.
What is the most interesting thing you have in your bag, your purse, your wallet, whatever it is that you have on you right now?
The most interesting
The most
thing?
interesting thing.
Oh God. Oh my God. I don't know. The most interesting thing, my car keys.
Yes.
Because I went without a car for 5 years, and I don't think people like understand like. Last night we talked about like, you know, the toys that you and I could probably easily afford. Sometimes you got to put that to the side, you know, to be able to pursue something bigger. So
I love that. Who said it? I think it was a couple of weeks ago. Someone said it. There's 3 levels of wealth. There's like, I don't have to worry about food money. Like, I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about cars money.
Yeah.
And then I don't have to worry about planes money.
yeah.
I can't remember who said that. Herbert Louis said that. Yeah, shout out to
Got
Herbert.
it.
I love that. And when you posted very proudly on Instagram, you beside your new car, I was like, oh man, go Pauleanna.
Yeah.
Like, nice.
And everyone's like, that's my dream car. I'm like,
Yeah.
this needs to be a dream. Like it could be real life if you plan for it.
Boom.
So
Which one? So let me rephrase this question. Pick one. Be first or be better?
better.
Who
I
is
don't care
a-
about being first.
Yeah, it's
Be
easy.
better.
Yeah.
Always.
Always. And you've talked about mentorship that you've received from others. Who is one mentor that stands out from those that's changed your life?
Sorry, one of my mentors.
Yeah,
that
a
changed
mentor
my
that
life?
changed your life.
One mentor is I'll say two, Shanae Ingleton and Shannon Boodram, because I met them the same year, 2009. And they changed we're celebrating 10 years this year. So
Wow.
in terms of consistency, and no matter how big they get on social media, I could always text them or send them an email and they will respond. They're not too big to like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to ignore my communication.
I love it. Shout out to Shanae. She was in the class as well last semester.
Yeah.
Hoping to get her on the podcast soon.
Cool.
And the last question for you, Pauleanna, you have bestowed us with gems. You've given us advice that I know is going to turn into pieces of content. I can already just see it in my head. But what's the best piece of advice that you personally have ever received?
My dad, he says, trust yourself.
Trust yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Andrew, what about yourself? The best piece of advice that you've
Yeah,
ever
no.
received?
For me, it was just a good moment. Somebody told me because I think I was definitely a little cocky and feeling myself when I was younger. I think until I just messed up, and then I had a guy. He told me, "Look, man, you're bright, you're smart, you have a lot of potential, but you don't know what you don't know." And that right there really helped me. That just not only that humbled me there, but that continues to humble me nowadays. Right, where I feel pretty good. But you know what? I'm always open, and I don't know everything. And things change, things get snapped out. You know, the market can change, people can change. Anything could happen. And so when you feel like you're on top or anything like that, if you get it too much into your head, then that's when you start losing it. So you don't know what you don't know. So
A friend told me, like, if you don't humble yourself, your business will humble you. And I really believe that.
I believe
'cause
that
you
too.
see-
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the average person is one check away from being homeless, but any of us who run businesses, like, anything could happen. Like, we just, yeah.
For all the entrepreneurs out there, like, let's just riff on that for a few more minutes over here, because somebody messaged me the other day on Instagram and said, like, bring in more entrepreneurs. I want to hear from people who are doing a business. What year are you on right now with WritersBlok? Like, this is year two. And then for the mentorship business, how old is that?
2015.
2015.
Like four.
You're coming up on 5 years.
Yeah, but
for that
in terms
business.
of like being a writer, period, 2009 is
2009. What did it take to make it past the 5-year mark? Because the 5-year mark happens to be that number that capsizes most businesses. How did
Well, I
you
didn't
make it
start
past?
making any real money until 6. Was it 6, 7?
Oh, wow. So for the
7.
first 5 years, it was just a
For
slog,
7
eh?
years.
For
It was kind of
7
like,
years.
well, yeah, I mean, you make money, but not real money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nothing that where you can be like, yo, hold that to your
Yeah.
mom, or like, you know what I mean? So yeah, but again, so Andrew had asked me a really interesting question. Like, would you do this regardless of whether or not you got paid? And again, the 7 years is not getting paid, but still doing it with so much love and heart.
Investing in the craft. I love that. Friends, an hour flew by.
Cool.
I didn't feel it. This was a lot of fun. Thank you. You've given us so many gems over here. Talk to us about some special projects, initiatives, anything fun that's coming up in the near future. I know that you just did a podcast last night at Shopify.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
So we have a
you.
big event coming up. I'll let Andrew talk about it.
So we have something called a Build Your Own Brand Retreat. It's 2.5 day.
BYO.
It's in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
In the States. very, very new. We're only 1.5 years old, but I think our first year we did 1,000 people. This year we're on track to do 2,000.
Amazing.
Just diverse creators, entrepreneurs, business owners, young professionals, and we've kind of created this space. And I think that it's grown significantly purely off of just the organic value and the word of mouth and the whispers that's going on. And so we're very, very appreciative of everybody that thinks or feels like this could be something of value. And if they're interested, maybe we can send you guys a code so that you guys can send to everybody else. To just hook anybody that wants to take a peek at it and come attend. And I can almost guarantee
we have some
that they'll
great
get something
speakers.
out of it.
Drop some speakers.
Yeah.
We have some
So I mean, last year our keynote was our keynotes were Yvonne Orji from Insecure on HBO.
Okay.
She was amazing. We had John Jackson, one of the co-founders of Blavity, which is one of the leading kind of millennial media companies for Black millennials. This year we have DSMs, who's president of Comb Enterprises. We've partnered with the United States Black Chamber, so they're bringing in their infrastructure, just high-level mentors who are doing $10, $20, $100 million, just kind of help facilitate. And then we have a lot of other goodies and surprises that we're launching. But other than that, I mean, it's literally the top. And for me, and I'll be honest, just to kind of throw this out there, this is not just about influencers coming. We're very, very specific with who we bring, because it's not just about being quote unquote an influencer. It's about being someone who has built a 6 and 7 figure business, right? Who actually knows the ins and outs. And so we don't want somebody who just read a book and now they're just out good marketing themselves and just regurgitating the same information and selling courses, right? This is about like myself, Pauleanna. We know these people, and we know that they know this stuff. They've been in the gridiron. They've been kind of in the dirt, in the mud, and they know their business. Because I think that there are some things you won't know until you go through it. It's the keenest details, it's the grayest areas, but you have to go through it in order to know it, and then in order to help somebody else.
Oh man, I'm so jealous. Like this first of all, this sounds like a thing that I want to be at too. So
come on down.
Please give me the deets. I'm gonna explore. I've never been to Atlanta beyond like the airport for transit. I'd love to actually go there and just explore the city. But these sound like people that would be fantastic podcast guests, and both of you have your own
100%.
podcasts, right?
Yeah.
What's your podcast, Pauleanna, for all the listeners? And where can people find it?
My podcast is more of like a passion project, though. Like I feel like so my YouTube and my podcast are passion projects.
Okay.
Like I'm no way trying to I don't focus on views. It's just me like storytelling.
Yeah.
Whoever jumps on. Honestly, if you Google my name on I'm One of a Kind, you can find everything. Like I'll just leave it at that.
Pauleanna Reid, Google me. And then Andrew, what about yourself? Where can people find your podcast?
Yeah, so I'm at Brain with Drew on many platforms, most things. The podcast that we just launched is called Millennial Creatives Mastermind. Yep. So hashtag MCM podcast. That drops every Monday, but obviously it's not a Man Crush Monday type podcast. It's just a fun play on words there. And then it's just honestly us going around and just having these awesome conversations. I learn so much every time I go to dinner or just have conversations with people like you and I and stuff like that. And I was like, man, let's bring people in and do it live. Let's put it out there more. And so it's just a huge give back campaign. I think a lot of people appreciate that.
Way to go. And to close out, where can people follow your adventures online? Where would you like people to
follow you? So I'm at Brand with Drew on all platforms, BRAND W
with Drew.
DRW, and then obviously our platform is at BYOB Live. Build your own brand. Yeah.
Fantastic. Pauleanna, yourself.
PauleannaReid.com, newgirlontheblock.com, the WritersBlok without the C.com.
That's it. And Pauleanna Reid on Instagram.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Folks, give them a follow. Check out all the amazing things they have going on online and offline. This was an absolute pleasure, Andrew and Pauleanna. Thank you so much. Friends, we'll see you next week. We're out.